Hello again, Kimberly Dawn here. And today I have a question for you. When's the last time you thought about your aviation reputation? Probably not in a while. It's one of those cliches that people kind of just think about and then forget about. Oh, everyone, aviation's so small. The world of aviation is so small. You're never going to outrun your reputation, which is entirely true. I've made a lot of mistakes in my career, mistakes that still follow me to this day. But the one thing that most people don't think about or even don't know how to talk about when it comes to your reputation is trust. Can your bosses trust you? Can your co-pilot or your captain trust you? Can your students trust you? Can your colleagues trust you? But trust is such an ethereal thing. It's like talking about trying to pin down a definition of love. Everyone's kind of got their own definition of love. And I know this has happened to you in the past. It's happened to me quite a bit. Someone says to you, well, I don't trust you. And you're like, what are you talking about? I'm totally trustworthy. What's the matter with you? You trust me. You, that's the problem, right? So then it just escalates because typically people aren't taught in the CRM courses and communication courses how to talk about trust. So Dr. Brene Brown has come up with an acronym called BRAVING. You can Google it, Dr. Brene Brown and the BRAVING acronym, which we're going to go through right now. So it's specific words to be able to identify the 7 areas of trust and the 7 ways that you can accidentally break trust at work and you don't even know you're doing it. So what I've done is I've put together a very fast 8-slide presentation because that's what I'm all about. I like making very large and complex things, boiling it down to what I like to call the 5-minute cartoon. You can definitely Google Dr. Brene Brown and go read her book, but I've put together a summary right now. So if you will allow me to share my screen, I will happily go through this. You know what? Instead of sharing the whole screen, we're just going to do this instead. Okay, so there we are. The trust, how to build or rebuild your reputation. Guys, in a down aviation economy, trust and your reputation is the only thing that is going to float you above everybody else when everyone's going for the same job. When you are a, unfortunately now low time pilot means 1,500, 1,600 hours. When you're a low time pilot going up against these airline pilots for the same jobs, what is going to differentiate you? Is it possible? Yes, it is possible. So let's talk about trust. Let's learn about how you can build your own reputation. And so the first thing we're going to talk about, and if you can see this, it's a marble jar. So a quick story. Dr. Brene Brown starts with a story about talking to her daughter who is in, I think, 3rd or 4th grade at the time. Daughter comes home and says, you know, I'm never, like, this horrible thing happened at school today. I'm never going to trust anybody ever again. And so like, and it got her thinking, how does one talk about trust? So then she started doing years of research on this. And what she's come about is that trust is like a marble jar. There's no one giant act that is going to automatically make someone trust you. If I were to jump in front of a moving vehicle and save a child from that vehicle, the parents are going to be grateful, like to the point of tears and what could have happened, but it doesn't mean that they trust me wholeheartedly as a person. All right. Trust happens in tiny little pieces that you don't even realize. So or actually, let's just use the story that she used. She was at a soccer game at her daughter's soccer game, and then some friends came over and said, you know, Brene, how's your mom and dad doing? And said her mom and dad's names. And Brene thought to herself, she goes, you know what? It's important that, you know, my friends remembered my mom and dad's name. Like, they took the time to do that. That's really cool. It's a tiny, tiny little thing that happened. And so that tiny little thing that's amazing, that showed that she could trust and rely on her friends, went into the marble jar and it just dropped in. So then another tiny thing happened and it dropped in. And soon, like, the jar gets filled up with all of these tiny little trusting actions. And then that person becomes trustworthy. It's not the giant grandiose things that happen. So it's a lot of tiny little things that happen consistently. So what are those tiny little things that make you trustworthy, that increase your reputation in your work environment? And sometimes this can roll over to your home environment as well. So braving, if you'll notice at the top here, I should have written it out, but braving, Braving, looks like I gotta make a slide for that, starts with B, okay? And the B stands for boundaries. B stands for boundaries. So in a quick way to talk about this, it's what's okay and behavior that's not okay. So behavior that is okay and what's not okay. And you have to outline your boundaries for somebody else. If you've ever had if you ever said this, oh, that person's so rude, how ignorant. If you've ever said that about somebody else or had someone say that in your presence, it's clear that that person has a boundary that was crossed and nobody knew about it, right? So the definition or the difference between rude, mean, and a bully, rude is hurting somebody, but you don't know you did it and you didn't do it on purpose. And being mean is hurting somebody on purpose, but it's a one-time event. And being a bully is hurting somebody on purpose, but it happens consistently. So let's come back to rude. Rude is crossing a boundary, and that person probably doesn't know that they crossed your boundary for that one. So I'm going to give you an example. Let's pretend that I'm a first officer in an airplane, and my captain and I are just chatting. We've got a 4-hour leg to fly. And the captain is a big, I often tell this story with me being the person that cusses, but let's say that my captain is a big fan of using cuss words. Now, I'm often telling the story with me being this person, but just to expedite the process. Okay, so my captain is saying F this and F that and this B word and that, S word, and it's a fun story. But instead of causing a ruckus, I'm just, I'm smiling and going, all right, okay, sure. Oh, you're so funny. But I don't want to talk to that captain. I don't want to cause a problem. So I smile, but my boundary has been crossed. Using a bunch of cuss words is not okay with me, but I didn't tell him about it. So my captain is thinking everything is fat, dumb, and happy. He's like, what is the matter with Kimberly? She doesn't talk. She doesn't socialize. She's always off by herself. She doesn't talk to me. What is wrong with her? I don't trust her. Something's like shady is going on. I don't trust her. And he is right to not trust me because a boundary was crossed, but he had no idea. He was trying to be jovial. He was just trying to have conversation. Right? Now, here's if I were to actually state my boundary. Hey, Captain, I really love your stories about when you were driving your sports car or whatever it is. But to be frank with you, the cuss words bother me. Do you think that we could just keep this cockpit a cuss-free environment? And then I have held my boundary. He knows what I'm thinking. I don't have to spew it all over him, but he knows what I'm thinking. So then the responsibility is on him to either respect my boundary or not, but the responsibility is no longer on me. So what would my captain be thinking now? He thinks, all right, I know what she's thinking. She said that's the cuss words that's a problem, and I'm going to respect that. I'm going to keep telling stories if she says that she likes them about my sports cars, but I'm going to try to keep it clean. And then the proof is in the pudding that conversations going forward are a lot easier. He tells the stories, I join in and I tell my stories, and the environment is a lot nicer. Now, this is heavily tied to integrity, which I'll get to in a little bit, but essentially the responsibility is on you in the beginning to hold firm your boundaries and let people know what they are. You have to be extremely clear about what's okay and what's not okay behavior. If someone is constantly screaming and that bothers you, you have to say that to them. After it comes out of your mouth in a respectful way, in a professional way, after it comes out of your mouth, then the responsibility is on the other person to figure out how to deal with it. If they decide to ignore it, that's another letter in the braving or in the trust acronym that we'll talk about in a second. But you being very clear on your boundaries makes you trustworthy or not trustworthy. Okay. If you keep silent and you don't let people know what's okay and what's not okay behavior, then you are the not trustworthy person because nobody can read your mind. Nobody knows what's going on in your head. And even though your actions are justifiable and probably very logical, if they don't know that boundary being crossed is causing the chain reaction of your actions, you are the not trustworthy person. Okay, I've hammered this one to death. Let's move on to R. So R is reliability. Okay, so I like this picture a lot. This comes from a website of the difference between valid and reliable data, but essentially reliability. Do you say what you're going to do? Do you actually do you say what you're going to do? Caption is wrong on that one. So let's change this. Do you do what you say you're going to do? Do you do what you say you're going to do? So this is often tiny little actions you don't realize are having a big impact on your reputation. So if you tell somebody you're going to show up 1 hour early and you only show up 45 minutes early, it's easy to brush off, but you've broken trust. You've taken a whole handful of marbles out of that jar. You've tossed them away that you know how now have to work to get back into. I'm going to be there an hour early, or I'm going to be there at 12 o'clock, and you show up at 12:15. You're going to be on the Zoom call at 10:30 and you show up at 10:35, right? This is proving to other people that you don't do what you say you're going to do. And it's also proving to those other people that you don't respect them enough to hold your own promises. Okay, this comes down to really putting some thought into what you can and can't do. All right, I think the examples of work and being at the airport and the hangar for this one, beyond just being on time, right? The do you do what you say you're going to do it can translate into more than just being on time. All right, next, accountability, the A in the braving acronym. I love this picture. The broken plate, accountability, own it. You gotta own your mistakes. You gotta own your problems. So if I love the example of being late again, like being late for work, because everybody on the planet has given this excuse at some point. Well, everyone that drives a car through traffic has given this excuse. I was late because of traffic. Sorry. It's easy to brush off, and it's logical that you got stuck in traffic, but here's the problem. As a boss, as an employer, as a leader, or even as a teammate, as a colleague, as your student, my first question is going to be, you were late because of traffic? Why didn't you leave 15 minutes early? I'm not going to voice it, so you're not going to know that I'm thinking that, right? But I'm thinking that. Everybody is thinking that. As soon as you blame your mistakes on something else, no matter what it is, whether it's logical or not, it could be a valid reason, could be an invalid, silly reason. As soon as you blame your mistakes on something or somebody else outside of you, you instantly lose credibility and your reputation is starting to hit the tank, right? Starting to get flushed. Blaming makes you look weak. It makes you look like you can't stand up kind of for yourself, really. Let's see if I can give an example. When I was first officer at a small airline, oh God, this is 15 years ago, 13 years ago. I was first officer at a small airline, not far from here, actually. I was flying a turbine aircraft. I would show up exactly on time. I would do only my own duties. I would keep to myself, and then I would get in the airplane, do only my own duties, and keep to myself and go home. And so when I was asked about it, okay, well, Kimberly, I saw that you cleaned your own window and you had more than enough time. That wasn't said, but you cleaned your own window in the aircraft, but other people were rushing. Why didn't you help out? Now, I'm not saying that not helping somebody else is a mistake, but you got to own what your own stuff is. So here's what I said. Kimberly, when it was said, Kimberly, you cleaned your own window, but you didn't really help anybody else out. Here's what I said. I didn't have time. I have so much stuff to do. Now, logical, yes. Reasonable, yes. But here's the thing. There was enough time. Everybody saw that there was enough time. There was 2 other aircraft that were trying to get out on time that were running behind. And I already had all of the window cleaner stuff in my hands. I already had the steps tool. It would not have taken me any extra to, thump over to another airplane, climb up the ladder and help them wash their windows. Is it a mistake? This is gray area, but this is why I'm telling you this story, so you can start thinking about yourself. And I blamed it on something else instead of saying, you know what, you're right. I did have enough time. I was being selfish. That response would have went over way better than the response what I gave, which was, I don't have enough time. I got to focus on my own stuff. They can do their own windows, right? So I'm blaming that on somebody else. I like giving those gray area examples because it gets you thinking about yourself and it's not so clear. It's not so black and white. All right, now, the vault. Whoa, this one's an insidious one that most people don't think about in aviation. Most people don't even consider this. So the vault is holding confidence of somebody else. You are sitting in the cockpit with somebody else, whether it's your instructor, whether it's your student, whether it's your co-pilot, your first officer, your captain, I don't care what it is. And you have a ton of time on the old straight and level. And so you start talking. All right. So you start talking and some things come out. And whether it's explicitly said or not, sometimes it's explicitly said, please don't tell anybody. And sometimes it's not. Holding the confidence, or to put it in easy terms, it's not really accurate, but easy terms, keeping their secrets is important. Here's what most people don't really think about when it comes to the vault or keeping things locked in, that if you're going to hold somebody's confidence or keep a secret. Here's what most people don't think about. If I'm talking to you and I say, don't worry about it, you can trust me, I'm not going to tell anybody. You don't need proof or not proof, whether I tell anybody or not. If immediately after I say that, then I come out with, but did you hear about Sally? Did you hear about John? Did you know that John and Sally and in the conference room and she's married? And he, like, if I'm starting to gossip about other people, then it doesn't matter whether you have proof that I spilled your confidence or not. You told me a secret and I could very well have kept it. But you know what I didn't do is I didn't keep somebody else's secret. And I'm gossiping to you and I automatically show that I'm not trustworthy. The only time that this doesn't apply is trainers or flight instructors talking to other flight instructors about students for the purpose of training. Okay. So there are many times that if I fly with you and something weird happens and I'm going to run my mouth about it to other students, not okay. To other colleagues who aren't your trainer, not okay. But if I'm telling another instructor or my boss specifically about this incident for the purpose of your training, for the purpose of integrity and safety, that is different. But okay, I've hammered on about that one. The slide says you can't lock only some of the vaults and still be trustworthy. I hope that one hits home. Okay, next, integrity. This is the big one that people love talking about, but don't truly understand and definitely don't do often enough. They say it's common sense, but it's definitely not common practice. So doing what's right over what's fun, fast, or easy. I like the picture that it shows there, stairs right next to two escalators, because it's doing what's right for your body over what's fun, fast, or easy, which is the escalator, right? And it's often uncomfortable, but definitely necessary. And this one is entirely tied to many of the other items on the list. Integrity is doing the uncomfortable thing and having that conversation with your captain who cusses too much. Right, I got to do what's right. I got to hold my boundaries. I got to say it. So then I pluck up the courage and I say it in a respectful way and see how it goes over, right? So holding my integrity. Often referred to as who are you when nobody else is looking, but I don't really think that applies because it's more than, oh. Excuse me. Excuse me. So I don't really think it applies to only when people are not looking. It applies to, are you willing to do the uncomfortable thing if you know that it's right? All right. Are you willing to go talk to your friends? All right. So you have friends or colleagues at work or other students, you see them, hangar rash. Oh, this is the perfect one. You see them putting an airplane away into the hangar. You see some hangar rash happen, or you see it from afar and the mistakes and the mechanics or the rampies that are pushing the airplane back, whoever it is, you see it happen and you're really good friends with that person. Right? So it is easy to walk away. right? I'm not flying that airplane. It's not my problem. It's not my mistake. I don't want to get anybody in trouble. It is easy to do that. It is uncomfortable to go talk to your friend who just did it and be like, dude, you got to report that. You got to report that. It's uncomfortable to have that conversation, right? And can you do it? Can you do the uncomfortable thing? All right, moving on. I've hammered that one enough. Moving on, judgment. This one is nearly impossible for most pilots. Not judging somebody else who needs help. And I love talking about this one because culturally as pilots, we are trained in the entire world of aviation to be self-sufficient, to get it all done, to be perfect, to be safe, to be the reliable one. You have to be the captain. Even the cliche and the joke is, as a captain, the 4 bars is, it's all my fault, right? So you can't let it be your fault. You have to make perfect decisions. You have to be perfect in all of your training, and you can't ever ask for help for anything. Culturally, it's so toxic for us. So even the governmental bodies have recognized this and created studies upon studies, and even like an entire SMS system, worldwide system, to help people with non-punitive reporting, to say, I need help, I screwed up, just to admit that they need some help without getting judged, right? But even though the systems are in place to don't judge people for needing help, individually, we have this quiet subculture that says, I'm going to judge you if you ever ask for help on anything outside of being a student and an instructor in the piston world. Jet world, this is out the window. Okay, so non-judgment, how it pertains to your reputation and your trustworthiness. If you have someone that you consider a peer or a superior and they come ask for help, do you judge them for it? It's a hard one to take in, isn't it? So can someone admit that they're not perfect to you without you going, oh God, that person's a screw up. That person's like so bad. That person is stupid, right? Do you do that? Because even if it's only happening silently within you, people are very intuitive creatures. Humans are very intuitive creatures. They can feel it coming off of you in waves. Now, it's like I said, I ranted already, this is cultural. So stepping outside of that cultural norm and seeing someone that needs help and helping them without feeling superior is going to be very difficult. But if you can actually manage to do that, your reputation is going to go through the roof. All right. Last but not least, we have generosity of thought. Now, this one is difficult to pin down in aviation, so give it some thought. Our relationship is only trusting if you can assume the best of my words, intentions, and behavior, then check in with me. Here's how it applies to that story I told about me and the window. So I didn't wash anybody else's window. I stuck to myself. I didn't talk to anybody. I didn't socialize. I didn't do anything. I did the bare minimum. I did not go over and above, and I went home after. So if anybody else were to actually have some generosity of thought about my actions and intentions, here's what it would sound like. Kimberly's not a part of the team. I wonder what's going on. I wonder if she's okay. Because what happened instead was, Kimberly's not part of the team. She doesn't fit in here. She's lazy. She's stupid. She's selfish. That's definitely judgmental, non-generous thoughts. Had anyone come to me at the time, I could have told him the problems. You know, I was constantly being paired with misogynistic captains who constantly, unendingly told stories in the cockpit where the other 5 female pilots that they had burnt up engines, crashed this airplane, hangar rash, was rude to this client, whatever it was. Unendingly, I was told stories about how often or awful women in that company were. Had anybody said, she's not part of the team, I wonder why, and then come to check in with me on it, they would have found out, and I would have trusted that person implicitly. As it turns out, I didn't trust anybody there, and I left that company to a different job within 18 months. All right. So this is an easy acronym to remember, the BRAVING acronym. And I hope I truly hope it helps you understand how to talk about trust, how to talk about trust within yourself. Because in all these items, you have to be able to trust yourself before you can trust somebody else. It's confidence. And I hope it gives you some structure to understand your own reputation going forward. Now, Brene Brown is one of my favorites. She's one of the scientists that uses actual data instead of one of the psychologists that only uses opinion. Well, in my 30 years I've experienced in this 400, people that I've talked to, she's used like tens of thousands of pieces of data for actual science to come up with all of her stuff. I love her stuff. One of the things that really struck home with me about interactions at work and interactions with people is the six types of personalities or friends, as she calls them, that you should never tell your life story to. And she talks with Oprah on a Super Soul Sunday. You can Google it. But the six types of people that you should never tell your life story to. And just quickly, because I'm not going to extend this live any longer to talk about all six, but just quickly, one of them was the person that when you tell something to, that maybe you're trying to see if they're trustworthy or not, right? The person that you tell something to, and they automatically one up you. Oh, that's nothing. Listen to what I did. Alrighty. So that's actually one of the six types of personalities you should never tell your garbage to if you're trying to build trust or a relationship in any sense. And there's 5 more. If you want that list, if you want a link to the talk that she does with Oprah, or even if you want the books that I've read that have the full description in it, you can send me a private message and I will happily fire that back to you. I really hope this helps. And let's shut this down. And so I want you to go kick some ass today. Bye, guys.